Hello and welcome to this special edition of RFL, The Road Ahead. It's our look at the brand new Governor Mario M. Cuomo Bridge, as well as our look back at the span it replaces, the Tappan Zee. And again, I'm Richard French. Now, the new bridge, not only the largest enhancement to our region's infrastructure in decades, it is also replacing what was, for many, the best-known landmark in the Lower Hudson Valley. The old Tappan Zee Bridge, a gateway opening up Rockland County and helping it evolve from a mainly rural community to the suburban enclave it's become. And the Cuomo Bridge, it will continue that process, enabling the Hudson River to continue to evolve well into the remainder of the 21st century and beyond.
Good job, thank you.
Whole lot of cheers and smiling as drivers over the new span opened to traffic on the night of August 25th. The ceremonial opening and the first chance for many of us to take in the new span, well, it came a day earlier on the 24th. That is Governor Andrew Cuomo, the son of the namesake here, cut the ribbon on the project that he spearheaded and what also became an homage to his late father, Governor Mario Cuomo, for whom the bridge is named. So let's begin our coverage now with a look back to that grand opening, and our own Ray Ramundi, he was there.
On this very day, under bright blue skies, Governor Andrew Cuomo introducing the world to the iconic twin-span bridge named after his father.
This bridge and the challenge of this bridge was not just a construction and engineering challenge. This bridge is not just a symbol of possibility.
The governor riding onto the bridge in style in a 1955 Corvette, the same model used for the inaugural procession that crossed the Tappan Zee Bridge almost 62 years ago. What was initially deemed as a low-key ceremony was filled with pomp and circumstance. 800 Westchester and Rockland County elected officials, dignitaries, and residents right smack in the middle of the span.
We are undertaking the largest public infrastructure project in the country, and we're building a state-of-the-art bridge that will carry us far into the future.
A cool new feature on this new bridge that wasn't on the old Tappan Zee span is what you see right here, a 50-foot wide emergency U-turn that's supposed to help law enforcement make sure that if there are any emergencies here, they could be cleared quickly. The mere beauty of the bridge so ever apparent, the design of the steel cables perched 400 plus feet in the sky, its wide lanes, the vibrant new technology from its signage, an unprecedented infrastructure achievement for the state of New York and the 7,000 plus workers who worked for this mission to be accomplished.
Let's say thank you to the men and women, the 7,000 union members who built this bridge not just with their hands, but with their minds, with their hearts, and with their souls. There's no debating the new span's beauty and design, at least for the next 100 years, will be priceless. On the Mario Cuomo Bridge, Ray Ramundi, FiOS 1 News.
Now, just about everyone who used the old Tappan Zee Bridge knew an upgrade was certainly needed, and for a whole host of reasons. You had safety concerns about the old bridge, a more modern look to the region, better traffic flow, even for the jobs the construction would bring. Now, all those reasons and more were on display as Governor Cuomo led a boat tour under the bridge just before the grand opening, and FiOS 1's Ali Rosen was there.
The original Tappan Zee Bridge was built in 1955 and designed to last 50 years.
Yeah, that was their point was right for 20 years. The bridge is dangerous. It was dangerous. And they were spending an extraordinary amount of money to repair it every year. The smart option was replace it. It was a safety issue. It was an economic issue. Make it wider. This was a terrible congestion point on the commute. That was always the smart answer. But it was a great risk. And would the public support it? And could you do it? And could you do it right? And if you went to do it and it didn't turn out well, that's politically damaging. And I always saw it the other way. It's the right thing to do, the smart thing to do. Let's do it.
Governor Cuomo sees this as his signature project, and he sure is proud the $4 billion bridge took only 4 years to build.
I'm going to show them that we haven't lost our mojo. We can still do great things. We're still New York. We're still bold and daring and creative and competent.
We're told more than 7,000 people, from architects to engineers to construction crews, worked since 2013 to build the new bridge. It's made with American steel and is 3.1 miles in length. The construction was expedited by using prefabricated steel girders and concrete road decks, which were all transported down the Hudson.
That would have represented probably more than 30,000 concrete trucks on the roads.
Over 140,000 cars cross the Tappan Zee Bridge every day. But with the new bridge, lanes will be wider, there will be a shoulder for emergency vehicles, and the tolls will stay the same. According to the governor, the tolls will remain at the current rate until 2020. But as far as the name of the bridge, that will take some getting used to. The governor decided to name the bridge after his father and former New York Governor Mario M. Cuomo, who died in 2015.
We built something great. We did it right. We did it on time. We did it on budget. Restored faith in government. I think he'd be proud of all of that.
The governor says the official naming ceremony for the bridge will take place next year when both spans are complete. He hopes to hold the ceremony sometime around his father's birthday in June. In Tarrytown, Ali Rosen, FiOS 1 News.
All right, thank you, Ali. And for more on the construction, the need for new bridge, and those lingering questions about how it all eventually will be paid for, well, let's bring in our guest, Matt Coyne. Matt is a transportation reporter for the Journal News and LowHud.com. He's covered the Cuomo Bridge in depth alongside Matt, political journalist and author Dominic Carter, and our senior political correspondent, Andrew Whitman. It got done, and it got done on time and on budget, which is a minor miracle when you're talking about projects of this scope. A little under budget. Yeah, actually a little under.
They've been talking about that, yeah.
The governor said restored faith in government. I think that's a very generous assumption. Nonetheless, are you a little surprised it all got done when they said it would and for what cost?
I mean, certainly, yeah. I think anyone should be that pays attention to big infrastructure projects nationwide. On the boat tour, the footage from which we just saw, somebody asked a question, and Cuomo brought about the lack of faith in government, and Cuomo brought up, the big dig happened in Boston, the massive infrastructure boondoggle to bury all the highways in Boston. So he kind of said that, he kind of alluded to the fact that these big projects have not been done well over the years. And this one he really does see as kind of, whether it was, implementing design build, rather than design, then you find somebody else to build it, or whatever it was. This is something he looked at as very much kind of like, this is a way forward. This is a way that government can do the big projects that, maybe, some argue that we've been missing out on, we haven't been doing for years and years.
And Andrew, I know you've spoken to a lot of lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, in the county and at the state level, and people are like, okay, $4 billion, who's paying for it? We'll get to the tolls in a second here, but nonetheless, do you think the public cares, or do they finally say, hey, you know what, we all agree we needed a new one, and in the end, it got built. Good enough for me?
That's an interesting question. I think if you're inclined to question government spending in general, you probably question where the money was coming from, or if you wanted to find a reason to criticize Governor Cuomo, you would certainly look to see the bottom line. But I think for most people, it was just a matter of getting it done. And because there had been such an intransigence in people's feeling like government can't do anything big anymore. And so to actually see something, particularly a project that had been stuck in conversation and debate for years beforehand, to actually see it go from the drawing board and now within 4 years to actually see the bridge itself, I think that's what people are going to care about.
Dominic, you can look at this both through a political prism, but also as a Rockland resident, right? Don't read any of the fine print here for the tolls, but you're going to be digging in your pocket. I don't know how much, but more than you are right now. Right. Are you saying it's okay because it just needed to happen?
I believe Andrew's assessment was correct to the degree that most people are probably glad that they can look with all the partisanship going on in Washington and say, hey, something got done and it got done fast. Whether you like Governor Cuomo or you dislike Governor Cuomo, we still don't know the price tag, but he came in, said we're going to do it, and he did it. And he got it done. And if you know Cuomo, then it's no surprise that he got it done a little under budget and on time. Because Cuomo is the type that cracks the whip and make sure it gets done. And isn't that what we want in our leaders?
And listen, this isn't the only major infrastructure. They're talking about airports in the city
Good
as
point.
well, and more. And certainly we have a political season coming up next year with the governor. But Matt, talk about beyond the politics and who gets the check and who doesn't. It was needed. We've done a lot, and we're going to talk later on in the program about safety issues in terms of, you know, for whatever reasons, it was an attraction for people who took their lives in staggering numbers sometimes. But there were safety issues, not just with this span, but with spans across this country. They needed to do something about it, didn't they?
Yeah, no, the punch-throughs were a big issue for a while with this bridge, where you could literally see through the road deck down to the water. The Thruway Authority spent some money to kind of shore up the bridge and make sure that it could still be, you know, used safely for, you know, the foreseeable future. But there were issues where, you know, federal standards say you want 12-foot wide lanes. The Tappan Zee Bridge is 11-foot wide lanes. They don't have breakdown lanes. A big reason why there's so much traffic on there is you get in an accident, even a minor fender bender, there's nowhere to pull over. That's going to create traffic jams, you know, all down, you know, bridge
And
into
there's
Westchester.
there's two U-turn emergency locations. We're going to talk about a lot more of the specificity. But do you think the way they did this is going to be the model they're going to have to follow forward? People may not remember that bridge collapse in Minnesota.
Right.
A lot of people are saying, unfortunately, this will be new realities for aging spans across the country. Will they look to the Tappan Zee, you think, going ahead?
Certainly, I mean, they certainly could. It's going to be, you know, 4 lanes in either direction. You're going to have big shoulders, big breakdown lanes. People also, but at the same time, the Tappan Zee Bridge at one point did not have as many lanes as it has currently. That was added later as, you know, traffic demands grew.
Yep.
So we're looking at 4 lanes in either direction. You know, perhaps that could grow in the future. But I think the big thing what they're going to look at in the future, other places, really the design build, sort of how they built it.
Well, you mentioned the future
contracts.
because coming up next, we're going to talk more about that. The bridge, not only out of necessity, but if you go by how the Tappan Zee changed an entire region in the Hudson Valley years ago, how will this one change the region as well? We're going to take a look back at that right after this, so please stay with us.
I have watched this bridge grow, but from its very beginnings and when it was being constructed underwater up until now, because I live only a few blocks away.
And what are your thoughts? Do you like how it looks?
I think it's beautiful, and I'm very excited to cross it very soon.
Very excited. I recently started working in New Jersey, so just having to drive over the bridge every day, I'm looking forward to the new bridge.
Some folks fired up here. And there also have other residents in the Lower Hudson Valley as well that mostly have positive reviews to this point. That is new Governor Mario Cuomo Bridge changes the face of the region. But a whole lot of people who do cross the span may never know just how singularly the bridge it is replacing, the Tappan Zee, was to the development of the Hudson Valley. It helped Rockland County evolve from, believe it or not, a mostly rural area to the suburban county that it is today. It also spurred development in Westchester in a way that few projects have before or even since. And Ray Ramundi, he follows that story.
It's the first new bridge to be built in the Empire State in more than 50 years. 4+ years of construction, thousands of workers, and almost $4 billion in one span of the new Mario Cuomo Bridge, which will replace the Tappan Zee Bridge, will finally open. How important is the building of this new bridge right now? How important is it to people here in Westchester and Rockland counties?
I think it's as important as the original bridge was in 1955. It's making that connection.
Reporter Peter Kramer and editor Robert Brum of the Journal News spending weeks searching through artifacts, gathering information, and interviewing dozens about the Tappan Zee Bridge and its impact on the community and the state it serves.
People feel tremendously nostalgic about the bridge. They really see it as a touchstone in terms of where they were at a certain time.
Your Thruway Bridge is now formally opened with another 25 miles of the longest, safest, best engineered superhighway in the world.
For many, it's hard to believe it was 62 years ago, on that December day in 1955, when the Tappan Zee Bridge officially opened. Crowds gathered, celebrations, and that promise of an everlasting thoroughfare. This wasn't just a connection between Rockland and Westchester counties. It was more to that, right?
Absolutely. I mean, this bridge is basically funding the entire thruway all the way to Buffalo, and this was the linchpin and the cash register that drove that construction.
Decades later, more cars, more trucks, the connector providing a new gateway of commerce and commuting. And with the expansion of more highways and commercial traffic, the bridge, built to last 50 years, was finally in a state of deterioration and decay.
I don't think anybody anticipated when they built the Tappan Zee Bridge what the volume was going to be, and it's just has outstripped its ability to handle it.
Then, after years of political paralysis, Governor Andrew Cuomo, with the help of President Obama and the federal government, finally given the go-ahead to start construction of this awe-striking, state-of-the-art twin-span structure. The spectacular cables, the belvederes overlooking the Hudson, and the shared bike and pedestrian paths. There's no doubt that the construction of the new bridge has just been short of incredible, but its engineering has been overshadowed by the dozens of memories people have shared about the old span from when it first opened 60+ years ago until this very day.
Some people wrote that they were there the morning of 9/11 and they remember being on the bridge right around the time the planes hit. Some people remember coming over the afternoon of the Brinks murders and robberies.
I never did walk across it.
South Nyack Mayor Bonnie Christian also has memories. She was there on December 15th, 1955, when the Tappan Zee opened. What was it like as a little girl riding across the span of the bridge?
Oh my gosh, it was so exciting. I had an English racer that I had gotten that Christmas, and it was just fun. There were 5 or 6 of us, and we just rode our bikes across. And
the mayor telling us South Nyack is excited. The opening of the new span, though, bittersweet.
The governor and his folks and the Thruway folks have really taken South Nyack into consideration, and even though it will be a big change for us, we are looking to keep the integrity and the characteristic of our village.
And the new span looks to generate a new character of its own over the widest portion of the Hudson River for the 140,000 plus who are expected to cross it daily and look forward to what comes next, built to last the next 100 years and perhaps beyond. Ray Raymundi, FiOS 1 News.
Matt, beyond the additional amenities and the possibilities on the bridge of a rail line potentially down the road, how do you think this one will more than just maintain, opening up Rockland and points north? What more could it do that we didn't see under the prior span? Well,
so as far as public transportation goes right now, you have something called the Tappan Zee Express, which is, I don't think it's it's just a typical bus line. What they're going to have this time is going to be, what the state has pitched as a bus rapid transit system, essentially just kind of like a fancier bus system. They want to have various technological improvements there to help the bus move quickly, maybe more quickly than normal traffic, that will connect Suffern to White Plains in the first phase, and then White Plains on to Port Chester later. That is something that could, as the Platinum Mile here, along Westchester Avenue and 287 kind of reinvents itself, could factor in a really kind of spur further development, new developments the way, and redevelopment the way that the original Tappan Zee Bridge in 287 did the first time around. And in Rockland, it really does for people who maybe just the bridge was maybe thinking about working in Westchester, Connecticut, points even further away, but the bridge was just bridge too far, for lack of a better term, could possibly open that up to them as well.
I've also heard a lot of, especially younger people, can't afford to certainly live in the city, and Westchester they're priced out of too.
Right.
Instead of an outer borough, they'll consider, moving into one of these up-and-coming communities. I mean, think how much of a Piermont has changed. Think about so many of the places across the span, and also people buying their first homes or whatever else, or even settling down and calling Rockland home. That, the argument is an imperative to it.
Right, yes, and that, young people, they're attracted to things like public transportation. So, if you redevelop one of the buildings along here, along the Platinum Mile, into a, some kind of, condo apartment type situation, and this bus system stops right there, it becomes more attractive to them, where, maybe they'll pass up having a subway stop right
and
a couple blocks away.
They really did. The Journal News did a great job on this thing from the beginning. But I'm surprised when you talk to people who don't realize this. Westchester and Rockland might as well be two different planets to people. The bridge was the only connectivity. You know this as a Rockland resident, that they could have, you know, that, okay, we share something in a lot of cases, right?
Well, Richard, you're right. And you just told my story with the comment you just made, because 30 years ago, coming out of New York City, when I was ready to purchase my first home, I wanted to move to Westchester. I looked at the taxes and almost had a heart attack. And then that's when I went to Rockland. And so you literally just told my story, and I think that's the story of thousands of people. And for us, I haven't gone over the bridge yet, so I'm really looking forward to tonight going home, because the bridge was a great economic engine, but for Rockland, but it's become an eyesore. Let's be honest about it. And so now I looked up and I saw this blue, like iconic type thing, and I was like, wow. So I'm really excited to go over the bridge.
Well, you tell me how it goes tonight.
Okay.
All right. Hey, Matt, appreciate the time. Great job tonight. All right. Guys, thank you very much. We still got much more when we come back. One of the legacies of the whole Tappan Zee, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, was there has been tragedies attached to this bridge before. When we come back, we're going to talk about the efforts to have a better future on the bridge as a way to deter suicide. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back. For many years in this program, we've led a campaign to try and prevent people from using the old Tappan Zee Bridge to facilitate taking their own lives. Now, the old bridge, it had the unfortunate reputation as being something of a magnet akin to an East Coast version of the Golden Gate. That is, dozens of people used the Tappan Zee over the years to take their lives. Now, preventing new tragedies, one of the factors taken into consideration as engineers planned the new Mario M. Cuomo Bridge, with new designs aimed to help prevent what the Tappan Zee could not. Fast One's Ray Ramundi, he has more on these life and death enhancements.
It's supposed to be known for its beauty and state-of-the-art architectural design rising high above the Hudson River, but the Thruway Authority is steadfast in ensuring the new Mario Cuomo Bridge is the safest, iconic infrastructure ever built. One way they are making sure of that is with the installation of what you see here, suicide call boxes, helping to prevent those from taking their own lives.
We're going to show you how our reporting got the state of New York to install these life-saving telephones on the center of a span that has become a magnet for the desperate and the depressed.
Bridge safety across the Hudson has been paramount to RNN and Richard French Live. Numerous investigations and relentless reporting spanning over a decade has led to call boxes being installed along the original span.
I think it had some impact on the people who use the call boxes. And this is what we think, that if we have it on the Tappan Zee Bridge, that may impact also. One lost life is too many.
Former director of the Thruway Authority, Ramesh Mehta, on RFL, acknowledging how those call boxes save lives. In fact, RNN's hard-hitting reporting on pushing for change, leading to recognition by the State Bridge Authority and State Office of Mental Health.
WRNN played an important role in highlighting this issue. I credit WRNN and Richard French in particular for giving light to this very dark issue and spreading the word to others.
And now, with the opening of the new span just days ago, that effort to save lives continues. 6 suicide call boxes are now in place across the new westbound span, about half a mile apart, with direct access to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline offices in New York City.
So you guys see the building in front of you right here? This is the Thruway maintenance facility.
Along with the call boxes, structures like these will also help in emergency and law enforcement efforts to keep the bridge safe. The skeleton of this structure on the foot of the Terrytown side of the new bridge will soon look like this: a 26,000 square foot maintenance facility, a center which will be the new home for several groups of Thruway personnel, including administration, emergency response, mechanics, electricians, and dock crews. It will facilitate instant access to the bridge, decreasing response time. Emergency crews will be able to immediately respond to vehicle breakdowns, and the new bridge's emergency shoulder lanes will enable stranded vehicles to be quickly removed from travel lanes.
And Ray joins us now for more. Ray, there's been designs on how it would change, but let's break it down kind of individually. I remember when the call boxes were first brought up. Even though they worked at other bridges, there was a resistance under the old Tappan Zee model. When they finally did it, they put them on the far ends of each of the span, which is historically where no one would go if they were going to take that fateful leap. It's going to be different under the new bridge, right?
Absolutely, Richard. There are going to be 6 call boxes that are already installed in just the westbound span, the new span that just opened Friday night into Saturday night. There's going to be 6 call boxes as well. And what's really important about this is those 6 call boxes are spanned across the entire span of the bridge, and they will be about half a mile apart from one another. And that's very key and important because any particular place on the bridge, this is where people could go if they do decide to get to that moment where they want to take their lives. They have access to these phones, which was paramount and part of the investigation that RNN and yourself has been following for years.
One of the things they found out was if the person took the effort to actually take the phone off of the cradle and talk to someone on the other line, it made a huge difference in stopping those people from taking that. The other thing is the amount of people, forget about the cost of it, even the risk of the rescuers that had to go into those waters afterwards was also an issue. Now, there's the call boxes, but then there was also the fencing. A lot of people thought it was far too easy in the past if someone did want to jump, that it wasn't much of an effort to scale it. These fences are different.
Absolutely. The New York State Thruway Authority has taken great lengths to make sure that there is security with the bridge, especially when it comes to the fences. This new span of the Mario Cuomo Bridge will have fences that are 9 feet high. That's almost 3 to 4 feet higher than the fences that were on the original span of the bridge. And those particular fences are what the Thruway Authority is calling climb deterrent. They're made not only high, but they're made with a curvature at the top portion of the fence as well, and that will hopefully prevent people who decide to want to take that leap of faith not to be able to do it or have a difficult time doing it.
In addition, and this is both to do with the subject we're talking about, but also, I guess, in the age of terrorism, tons of cameras on this bridge, and more than just recording what's going on, whether it's a disabled vehicle, someone in a place where they shouldn't be, or someone pulling over a car and maybe, climbing on the car to try and, unfortunately take their lives.
That's right.
People, would know about it more quickly and also be in better position to respond.
Absolutely. This bridge is the first major bridge to be built here in the New York area since 50 years ago when the Verrazano Bridge happened. During that time and the time that we live in today, especially when it comes to terror, is such an important issue for not only drivers, but for those who constructed this new bridge. In terms of those security cameras you talked about, Richard, there are going to be plenty of them. The Thruway Authority didn't want to reveal how much, but they will be watching. Part of this is all encompassing too, as part of a new maintenance facility that will be on the Terrytown side of the bridge. This is a new 26,000 square foot facility in which I talked about in my piece. Not only will they allow there to be emergency personnel right there on the bridge on the scene in case there is an emergency or any type of event happens, but it also allows the monitoring of those surveillance cameras on the bridge. One other note that I should tell you, the bridge is also encompassing, the new bridge, 2 emergency U-turns that the old span never had. This will also allow emergency service personnel to be able to respond quicker to emergencies that happen on the bridge and allow traffic to smooth easily in terms of getting vehicles off the span if they're stuck or there's any type of accident.
Fair is fair. I was very critical over the years, but what I saw was sometimes tone deafness on the folks at the particular authority. It seems they've made real efforts to make it right. We'll see when the final construction's done. But Ray, great job. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
And coming up next on our special report, The Road Ahead, the photographer and the amazing story and pictures here, as well as technology that captured some of those shots here and video that we've been sharing with you tonight. Stay with us. There is no shortage of history when it comes to both the old Tappan Zee Bridge and its historic replacement, the Governor Mario M. Cuomo Bridge. But one man has been a part of both chapters of our region's transportation history. He was one of the first to actually drive over both spans. Files 1's Christine Corrado, she has his story.
Bridges have played a large significance in Armando Chick Galella's life. At 96 years old, Galella was the first person on Thursday chosen to take a ride over the new New York Bridge in a yellow Corvette, riding shotgun along with Governor Cuomo. He calls it the highlight of his lifetime.
I got on with him and drove. I say, I hope you know how to draw a stick shift, Governor, because I don't want to be jumping around all day. So
Chick was also among the first to cross the original bridge when it opened in 1955.
Isn't that amazing? To do that in a lifetime.
Chick, who has lived in Sleepy Hollow for his entire life, is a Pearl Harbor survivor, and he lives to tell the tale of that fateful day on December 7th, 1941.
All of a sudden, whoom, whoom.
When Japanese planes bombed the military base, Chick lost his best friend, John Horan, also from Sleepy Hollow, who got killed running to his plane. Chick named a park after John in Sleepy Hollow.
And I go there. And he put a flag there for him. How did I do that?
Chick managed to escape Pearl Harbor alive, and on his way home, it was sailing under the Golden Gate Bridge, where Chick says he first learned the war was over.
Pretty good.
Now once a week, Chick goes down to the Hudson River, looks over at the bridge, has a glass of beer, and remembers the war and his best friend. In Sleepy Hollow, Christine Corrado, Fios 1 News.
When future generations look back at the construction and opening of the new Mario M. Cuomo Bridge, they're going to turn to just some of the covers that we've been sharing with you during this program. They're also going to lean on the work of people like our next guest. Peter Karp, photojournalist with the Journal News and LowHUD.com. He's been tracking the rise of this bridge since construction began some 4 years ago. Peter, thank you very much for joining us. And again, in 2014, basically the paper said, let's show this thing here. Right. And as I saw in the piece that people saw in the paper today, it kind of seemed, not that it happened overnight, but for a long time, for those of us who even went by, you'd see basically, you know, the basic structure, the concrete in the bottom. Then all of a sudden, it seemed like the bridge just shot up. I mean, it was 4 years, but kind of moved fast.
Right. It was the beginning. Most of the work was pile driving, and even before that, there was testing pile driving. So it was just really slow, and it was just when they were working. Once the piles were in, all you'd see is little dots on the river where the tops of the piles were. So for the longest time, there wasn't much to look at, and you couldn't actually even see a lot of people working because they were just on the barges with the cranes. And
right.
Once they got the piles up and the piers built around the piles, the supports shot up, and then they could really start working really fast.
And on time and under budget, although we'll talk about math a little bit later in the show. But in terms of how, and we're showing our audience some of the amazing photography you and other photojournalists at LowHUD did. You did it in a bunch of different ways. We'll talk about the thing on the table here in a second, but you had a couple different contraptions, right? I mean, you did what you guys call drive-bys, and then you also had, you know, literally a contraption you built yourself here to show the vantage point, I guess, from if you're moving car going over it, or if also you're driving by it. You did aerial photography. Talk about how you captured some of these images.
Well, the one you mentioned was, I call it a pole cam. It's basically just a GoPro camera on a pole, a tall light stand, which I put when you're driving over the bridge, if you looked out to your right, you couldn't see over the fence to get a clearer shot. So what I did was I just put the pole through the roof of the moon roof of my car, and I was able to see over the fence using that, and just kept it running for a time lapse and some video also going across. And I did that several times over the last few years. So from that same angle, you could see the piles, the towers rather, rising up in the center. It's just basically it's a GoPro on a stick with the remote control through the camera, and just left it running.
You were also able, with aerial photography, to show what it looked like from above as well.
There's several of us have been up in the plane. Frank Becerra's been up there a few times, and I've been over it a few times with planes out of Westchester, and it's a great point of view.
Yep. And then we have what we have in our table. As we showed, and for folks who don't see it all, you got to go check it out on Lower HUD. There's like a 4-minute time-lapse video that's amazing to show when it went kind of from concept to reality. But talk about how drones, not just in this project, but overall in your world as a photojournalist, how they've really changed how you can get not only still imagery, obviously, but video as well, and how far it's advanced in a short period of time.
It has advanced very quickly, and these drones are new to us. Just this year we started using them. We went to training. Ricky Flores and myself were partners. We always fly 2 people, 1 pilot, 1 camera operator. And we've used it a lot on the bridge construction in the last few weeks. We also did a series on Westchester golf courses where we did this.
I got to ask, so if somebody sees that name over there, explain what it is for those who don't speak Spanish.
Air Chuleta, it's pork chop. Ricky Flores named it that, which is also his nickname. So.
The images it got were amazing. And explain kind of what it can show that you can't see, obviously, even if you're in a moving car or even if you're taking aerial photography.
Yeah, it's a great point of view, and it can, with an airplane, you can see a lot, but this has the advantage of being able to fly not so high, so you can fly 100 feet and see things that an airplane would be hard to pick out from that height. So it's incredible, and the detail with it is incredible. It's a 4K video on it, so it's super sharp.
And it's really changed the way that people, not just obviously for folks on the print and digital side here, on the broadcasting side, how you can cover stories like we're talking about the flood in real time. Well, it was amazing, some of the photography you did and some of the video you captured. And again, as we showed our viewers in this segment, especially with the time-lapse video, to get an idea of that scope of a project and how it can come together over a window of time, Peter. Great job, and thank you very much. I appreciate the time. And coming up next, people living near the new bridge, they waged a battle over plans for a state-of-the-art shared-use path. We're going to have more on where it stands today right after this quick commercial break. Now we move over to South Nyack. That's where residents resisted plans that may change the character of their community. And in the end, they won, agreeing to the design and location of a state-of-the-art shared-use path. 5 One's Lisa Salvati reports.
The bike path, or shared use path, dubbed the SUP, will run the length of the Cuomo Bridge on the westbound side. It'll open once the bridge is finished next year. And here's how it'll look. Bikers, joggers, and walkers will be able to access the 12-foot wide lane in Tarrytown and South Nyack. But it hasn't always been a smooth ride for the SUP, at least not on the Rockland side. The State Thruway Authority had originally proposed building the end of the path where bikers would exit in Tanya Wisner's front yard.
We'll be able to hand them coffee, I suppose, drinks. It's going to change our quality of life, definitely.
That was when I interviewed Wisner in 2014 at her home in South Nyack. Back then, she told me the state had a plan to buy part of her property and end the path at her corner on South Broadway, across the street from the Thruway southbound entrance ramp and Village Hall.
It just wasn't working, and it didn't work.
Led by Mayor Bonnie Christian, residents formed a task force. They pushed their own plan that shifted the construction of the path's terminus from South Broadway to the state-owned land at Exit 10 on the Thruway, where they proposed a parking lot be built. After more than a year of meetings with Governor Cuomo's bridge team, the people of South Nyack got what they wanted.
We held our ground, and I think that was important.
The new proposal also includes an option for bike riders to connect with Esposito Trail, a dirt path used by bikers and joggers that runs along I-87 behind Village Hall.
It's something new and exciting. It's probably, I would like that.
Christian says the state hasn't told her yet how bikers coming off the bridge will get to the parking lot at Exit 10 or connect with Esposito Trail. She thinks perhaps an underpass will have to be built. The changes, Tom Maloney of New City says, will be well worth it.
I come down here to run and bike and do all that kind of stuff, so I'm all for it. I love the idea.
Another change coming to South Nyack due to the new bike path is that this entrance ramp to I-87 southbound headed to the bridge to Westchester County will be closed permanently. The Thruway entrance and the express bus stop, Christian says, will move to State Road Route 9W and will reduce traffic on residential streets. On the Westchester side of the bridge, bicyclists will be able to get right on at South Broadway in Tarrytown, where the Thruway Authority is putting up its new building. There will be parking spaces, a pavilion, and restrooms. The location is across the street from the strip mall on Route 119. And pizzeria owner Franco DiTillo is looking forward to making more dough.
Yeah, it should be good for business. Anytime they do anything to bring more people in, it's always good for us.
$16 million is dedicated to the shared use path. The 6 lookout points will feature historic and cultural themes. One detail state officials are grappling with, whether to keep it open 24/7. In any case, they believe they'll see a spike in tourism as people will be able to safely enjoy the panoramic views of its crown jewel, the Hudson River. Lisa Salvati, BIOS 1 News.
Well, that's going to do it for us this evening and our special report, The Road Ahead. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to leave you this evening with a little bit of nostalgia. We found the original reporting of the opening of the Tappan Zee Bridge in New York State's archives. Enjoy.
Your New York State Thruway, superhighway and main street of the great Empire State, is extended another 28 miles from Suffern to Lower Yonkers. Motorists and truckers now have 424 miles of this longest of all expressways. This ties the New York metropolitan area with upstate New York and provides connections with expressways in neighboring states. The most spectacular project on the Thruway is the 3-mile bridge spanning the historic Tappan Zee section of the Hudson River between Tarrytown and Nyack. This is the largest bridge of its type in the world. First test borings for this $60 million structure were sunk in mid-1951. Actual construction work started in March of 1952. Vast quantities of steel and concrete soon formed the foundation. There are more than 153,000 cubic yards of concrete, 14,000 tons of reinforcing steel, and almost 60,000 tons of structural steel in the bridge. It has over 27 acres of pavement spread over 6 wide lanes, 3 in each direction. Most unique feature of the bridge is the use of huge underwater boxes, 8 in number, which rest on the river bottom at mid-channel and serve as buoyant foundations to support about 70% of the bridge's dead weight. These concrete boxes, the largest, half the size of a big city block, were built here in a natural dry basin 10 miles north of the bridge. The basin then was flooded. Tugboats hauled the boxes into the Hudson River and towed them to the bridge site. The first caisson was moved downriver in October of 1953. Back at the bridge site, each of the boxes was carefully jockeyed into a corral, filled with water, and sunk to its precise river bottom location. As the weight of the foundations and superstructure was added, the boxes were pumped dry for the desired buoyancy to support the bridge. Part of the vast construction process involved the placing of 19 of these huge deck truss spans. These also were fabricated 10 miles north of the bridge and floated into place atop their concrete foundations. This steel girder made history last September when it was lifted from a river barge to form the final steel link in the main channel span. Your Thruway Bridge is now formally opened with another 25 miles of the longest, safest, best engineered superhighway in the world. Another historic chapter to the rich heritage of New York State and its cross-state Thruway.